Welcome back to the Lumbertron podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Woods. Yeah, kick, punch, it's all in the mind. Today's guest is my coach, mentor, friend, and jiu-jitsu powerhouse, Andrew Marshall. As my mentor and trainer in the accelerated evolution method, Andrew has taught me how to gain mental toughness, all while staying balanced and at ease. We talked about his upbringing and his road to master trainer and coach, and I think maybe I just might have made him smile, just a little bit. Adjust your headgear as needed. Get ready for our conversation. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for joining me here on the Lumbertron podcast. It's a pleasure to have you.
Happy to be here, man. I'm glad you asked me. I'm glad it's a cool opportunity to connect with you more, get to know you a little more, and to provide a cool conversation, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the way that I usually start these is the biggest question of all is, Andrew, who are you? Who are you, Andrew?
Me.
Yeah. Who's Andrew Marshall?
Yeah. It's funny in this. Yeah. Well, I'll just free flow from what goes into my mind is that who I am and who is Andrew Marshall is two different questions.
Ooh. I love that. Okay. Who are you?
I am me.
Wow. Well, who's Andrew Marshall then?
Andrew Marshall is a guy who who's grown up in the Northwest of the United States between Washington and Oregon. I spent a good amount of time in Hawaii, and I love these three kind of general places: Washington, Oregon, Hawaii. That's if these are the only three places I spend the rest of my life, I'll be just fine. And I'm an accelerated evolution coach and trainer. That's how we've met, right? I teach jiu-jitsu. I love jiu-jitsu, and a variety of practices from yoga to qigong to plant medicine work to just general consciousness work. That's my main kind of focus in life. I love doing men's work, working with men specifically, because I think the more the world, the more strong and open-hearted men we have in the world, the better place the world is going to be. But also I care about the life of every individual man, every individual person, that you're having an enriched, fulfilling life experience. You feel like you're here and you're doing what you came here to do. You're doing what you're meant to do. You feel fulfilled. You feel that you can live, love, and die without regret. That's what I'm really interested in. That's what I'm interested in for myself and what I'm interested in for others. And I work with men and women, but my work is continuously more and more geared towards men specifically. But whether it's one-on-one work or doing retreats or doing some awesome, badass physical training. So who am I and who is Andrew Marshall? I'm a person who cares about these things.
Thank you. Yeah, I see before me what I judge as a very, very well-rounded individual. I hear that you have spiritual pursuits, intellectual, physical. I'm curious, has this always been the case? Or have you journeyed long and hard to get to this place?
Yeah.
Yeah,
all that.
Yeah.
All that. And you're probably gonna hear another aspect. We have a son. I have a son and a fiance, and I could hear them actually vaguely in the I can vaguely hear them outside. You might hear a little sound in the background if they get home and if you hear a wild chimpanzee screaming in the background, it's just a 3-year-old.
Yeah, it's just part of the zoo.
Yeah, I think I've always been into sports. I've always just been an athlete. And so growing up, my whole single pointed focus was like sports, be a professional athlete. I hated school. I did not do well in school because I hated it. I had a good amount of social anxiety and a lot of insecurities, which then I covered up by just trying to be a tough badass kind of football player, fighter. So it was a lot of like football and drinking and drugs and getting in fights and just kind of living a pretty wild existence. That with the good aspect of it was I grew up kind of in a wild existence with a lot of freedom. But at the same time, there's a lot of internal fears and insecurities and trauma and doubts about myself, and kind of a big mess and a lot of emotional turmoil.
Yeah. So I heard that you had freedom, but it was also kind of didn't know where to point it. Like there was a lot of things just like in the charges that you were holding and just like nowhere to really put them.
Not a healthy environment nor healthy direction.
Yeah.
Is what I experienced. So I love that I've heard other people in mentorship roles say, make your mess your message, or some form of that. And I've always, as an adult, I've always taken that to heart.
Yeah.
As an adult, as I started making shifts in my young adult life, realizing I did not like myself and realizing I felt like complete shit physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and I needed to do something about it. And I felt like the impetus to do something about it and the inspiration to do something about my life, it feels as though it was me and it was not me. It was a mixture of a divine grace I think that gave me the inspiration. And then I think it was my choice to really follow that.
Did you have any spirituality or religion in your life growing up to that point?
A Christian family, Christian community, Christian environment, which I had zero interest in or affinity for. Yeah. But it was my reality. And it was once I graduated high school, when I was 18, I graduated high school, and my dad told me, he's like, okay, you're 18. If you don't want to go to church with me anymore, you're a legal adult. That's your choice. So I said, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Done with that.
So once I was able to stop going to school, and once I was able to stop going to church, I started reading books like crazy and opening up spiritually and educating myself about life. Yeah. So my education really, I mean, we're always getting our life education since the moment we're born, but my real education and like why I'm even here talking to you, why I'm even in the position of an accelerated evolution coach or trainer, that's because my real education and my real spirituality opened up and started once I got out of school and I got out of church.
Yeah. So with those institutions not keeping you in a box, you were able to kind of expand and make your own way.
That's how it worked for me. So yeah.
Beautiful. Question on my mind was, I heard that you had a lot of like sports, the physical way you wanted to be, into the physical pursuits. And the question on my mind was like, what kind of messages did you receive about being a man from your family and your environment? What was the masculinity to you growing up?
Yeah, that's a great question. And mine, it was messy for me, and it was really challenging for me because I felt like I got a number of different messages. And again, I know that all of us have our own unique experience of this, and all of us have our own unique spectrum of messages and mixed messages and all of that. My mixed messages came from, I'm definitely a naturally like masculine heterosexual man. Like that's clear about me.
Mhm.
And we live in, growing up, I was in an environment and surrounded by the messages in society that, you know, kind of the typical ones that probably you've talked to people about, many people talk about, is like, be tough, don't cry, don't be a bitch, don't be a pussy, like dominate others, be strong, be physically strong, etc. Also, don't be too smart, because if you're smart, you're a nerd and you're a bitch and you're going to get laughed at.
Yeah, so having to constantly show the strength but not be intellectual.
It's like, make sure you kind of, you're tough but you act stupid, like Homer Simpson or Peter, what's that on Family Guy? You know, just watch Peter Griffin. You know, it's like those are the role model. It's like a mixture between Rambo and Peter Griffin, and if you're a combination of those two, you're good to go.
Got it. So those are your role models growing up.
Or like Mel Gibson in Braveheart or something. Like Mel Gibson in Braveheart was like, I loved Braveheart, you know.
Yeah.
So so again, there's good things and not so good things. Like I'm glad, I've always held the value of toughness, like a certain type of toughness and hard work ethic. And I think that that's a value that I still hold, that's obviously become more healthy over time as I've become more healthy. But there's I just think a lot of stupidity, a lot of stupid examples I received. And so when I was 13, I started drinking and smoking pretty heavily. And I was actually between the age of 13 and 21. I felt like I drank enough for a lifetime, and 20 to 21 was when I was starting to have my own shifts in how I was perceiving life and how I wanted to live. And so while a lot of people were excited to turn 21 and go to the bars, I was quitting drinking when I was 21.
Yeah, you're through with that.
Did that.
Yeah, done.
I mean, we were 18. We all like got these professionally made fake IDs. And so we were 18-year-olds. We were seniors in high school going to bars and liquor stores whenever we wanted already. It was like, so trying to come back to the original question you shared, masculinity. So I think there's those societal imprints that we receive, especially that masculine men receive, that we're supposed to be we're supposed to be like a certain American sort of patriotic, macho, non-bitch way. But then also my dad is gay.
So how did that shift things for you, or how did you perceive that?
I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it. And so already as a teenager, you know, kids it's like you're naturally in conflict with your parents. I don't know that it has to be that way, but it seems to be the common theme.
Most commonly.
When you're a teenager, the way you feel about your parents is like, fuck you, I hate you, stop telling me what to do. So that became amplified in me as I was trying to make sense of my own reality. And I was in, part of my family was very conservative Christian, part of my family was very liberal Christian. So part of the family messaging is like being gay is evil and wrong, and societal messaging is very homophobic. And then my own confusion of like, the reason I was mentioning earlier is that my disposition that I understand about myself is I'm very naturally masculine, heterosexual man. Well, we model a lot of our existence as men off of our fathers. So if my dad's gay and my dad likes to have sex with men, I'm very now confused about
how to be.
If I at all think about having sex with men, does that mean I'm gay? Does my dad pass that on to me? Does, you know, what if my friends find out? Because I would only let select few of my friends know my dad was gay.
Yeah,
because
I
I
was
was
gonna ask
insecure about it.
if that was people know about that, then they're gonna make
A
fun of
lot would
you.
in the
They're gonna,
the older I got, the less of a thing it became.
sure.
But when I was younger, then I was like select on who I would let know. So then I think there was, if I reflect now, what I know now, the languaging I have now and the understanding I have now, looking back, I think a lot of me being this guy who had to look like one of the alphas, had to look like one of the tougher guys. I was one of the guys that like would do the crazy shit that other people were afraid to do. And then I enjoyed the attention that came from, what, you did that? Holy shit, you see, you did that. Jump off the highest rock into the water, fight the guy no one else would fight, drink the huge bottle of liquor that no one else would drink. A lot of that was overcompensation for trying to make sure people knew that I was a fucking man, even though my dad was gay.
Yeah.
And my dad spent his young adult life trying not to be gay because his Christian reality told him he should try not to be gay and he should marry a good woman and he should have kids. So he tried really hard and he married a woman, my mom, and he had me and my brother. And then by the time he was in his early 30s, he's like, he couldn't do it anymore. And so my parents got divorced when I was 7. And then the whole concept of divorce and the whole concept of homosexuality just entered my reality as a young boy. And I tried to just suppress that.
Yeah. So I heard you receive a ton of mixed messages from both your family, religion, and society about what it meant to be masculine.
And then talking about the mixture of messages is like, and the interesting thing is my dad's gay, but he's also a very masculine man in a lot of ways. Like you wouldn't know, like he doesn't, like some gay men are a little more feminine and they speak in a certain way and like, oh yeah, he's gay. Like it's clear. My dad's not like that. He wouldn't, maybe apart from him having like this very nice fashion sense, you might pick up on a little bit of the gaydar. And I speak about this openly too, because I could speak this way with my dad right next to me. Like we have a great relationship now, and he's a very open, amazing, man spiritually. And we've been on tandem journeys, opening up spiritually. But so my dad, he's also like, he's a really strong man in the sense that he has a really badass work ethic and a great sense of values and strength and he's a hard worker and he knows how to like fix things and work on things and he can do hard manual work and all these things. And he's also always shared to me, because his dad was a conservative Baptist preacher who was always telling him to be different than he was. So my dad went the other way, where he was always just supporting me and being who I was.
Yeah.
Earlier on, he didn't maybe know how to do that all the time because he was just always struggling with his own emotional turmoil. And so to me, I felt like my dad was this very angry person that I didn't really know how to relate to, but he was always trying his best and he always wanted me to be myself.
Yeah. The things that you couldn't see when you were in it as a child that now you can like appreciate.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you say, I knew it then. It's just, I think we had so much anger and emotional turmoil and hurt in our family in general that it was hard to work past that. Like we talk about in accelerated evolution, we suggest to not try to coach on top of charge, address the charge first, and then provide insight, and then see what, if I helped you resolve a charge, now what's your own innate wisdom or insights that comes forth from your own direct experience of processing that intense charge for you. Again, taking the language I have now and applying it to the past, I think my dad was always trying to give good effort, but he was always trying to speak to the charge. He was always trying to speak on top of charge. We have too much anger, too much hurt, too much resentment, too much confusion in our family. Within him, he had his own, I had my own, my mom had her own. My brother had his own. It's hard to connect through all of that. Even if my dad sits in front of me and says, I love you, I really want you to be who you are, I'm here, you can talk to me about anything. And I'm just like, fuck you, Dad.
Yeah, it comes in through a lens that's still shaded. It's still shaded in a certain way. So
yeah.
So as you were able to break out of the institutions of school and the church and really find your own way in the world, what kind of resources did you find, or what avenues did you find as you grew to begin to shape who you are now, like someone who is teaching others? Or were you seeking things out? Were you looking for an answer? Like, tell me about the first steps in that direction.
I'd say jujitsu was my gateway drug
Mm.
to spirituality and to consciousness. Because I played football for 6 years and I was like very focused on football and baseball and these sports. But then once I was a senior in high school and I realized, gosh, darn, well, I wish I would have had some better guidance with this before, because I'm good. I'm very technically good in sports, but I'm not like a huge person. Like, to be a professional football player,
you got to be like
a linebacker,
huge man.
You got to be a much more physically gifted person than for that particular sport than I inherently was. I mean, right now ever since I was 17 years old, I've been 175 pounds. I've pretty much just like stayed the same size. So my body was beat to crap and I wasn't going to play college sports. So the UFC was starting to get bigger. Ultimate Fighting Championship was starting to gain more attention then, and my friends and I got really into it. We liked it, so we started training. So when I was 18, got done with football, got done with high school, started training jiu-jitsu, and I fell in love with jiu-jitsu instantly. And I remember, I can still see it vividly in my mind, where after about 3 months of training jiu-jitsu, I was sitting on the mats and something came over me, and just a knowing that I was going to do it for the rest of my life. And I remember even being that young guy and thinking, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I was like watching people training around me. How do I know I'm going to do this for the rest of my life? That's interesting that I just know this. Huh. You know, so, and then I started thinking, well, you see, you know, watching TV and cartoons as a kid and seeing different things, I was like, you always see this image of these martial artists meditating. I remember seeing images of martial artists meditating. What's this meditation thing all about? So then I started just looking online, like, how do you meditate? What's meditation? How do you do that? And then I started realizing that I was always distracting myself. I always had to be entertained. I always, like, my days, every moment of my days was filled with some kind of external stimuli. I was either working my full-time job, because I just started working full-time the day after high school graduation. The very next day I was in full-time, just working and training jiu-jitsu and partying with my friends at night. And if I wasn't working or training or drinking, I was either watching TV or playing video games or jerking off or something, you know, as a young guy. So I was like, holy crap, I'm afraid to sit in a room and silently do nothing. Like, the idea of sitting for 5 to 10 minutes in a room and not doing anything, not watching TV, nothing, was terrifying. And I realized, that's why I say it's grace. Like, in that moment, I realized that's a problem. So I started addressing that problem. I was like, okay, I am going to sit in a room for 5 minutes and do nothing. And I noticed how much my mind was just racing. It was crazy. It was like this monkey I had no control over. My mind's just racing, racing, racing. So I started just gradually learning more, seeing more videos or articles about meditation techniques and how to do it, and reading different. And then actually a football coach gave me a book called The Celestine Prophecy after I graduated high school. And that was the book that opened me up spiritually. That was my first real spiritual gateway as well. Reading that book. And I read the whole trilogy of books. And then I started reading more and more books. And Paulo Coelho was a great influence for me. Really amazing man. Reading The Alchemist. He wrote The Alchemist. So I started reading different books like this. I started reading books on diet and nutrition, trying to eat healthy, because my whole life I just grew up eating fast food like multiple times a day. And I would drink, like, I would joke that my favorite drinks were milk and beer. And then if I had to choose number 3, it was Dr. Pepper. So during the day, I would just drink huge glasses of milk and like 6 Dr. Peppers in a day. And then my friends and I, we go kill a 12 or an 18 pack at night. Right. So what?
Youth.
I know. Horrible. So I started just kind of self-educating myself on meditation and nutrition, and being really motivated to train jiu-jitsu. And I was boxing at the time as well. And I wanted to fight MMA, which didn't happen because my body was too beat to crap. And then I dealt with injuries and surgery, and I just stuck with jiu-jitsu. I was like, okay, I guess I'm not going to do that. So I'll just stick with jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu has been with me my whole adult life through all ups and downs. Yeah. So yeah, jiu-jitsu started it, some books started it, and then just the catalyst for me to, and then I would see other fighters, like they have nutritionists that work with them to help them optimize their training. Well, I can't afford a nutritionist, so I guess I got to be my own. So it was just these observations that got me to get into meditation and into eating right, and into just trying to be healthy, because if I'm healthy, that optimizes my performance. That's what I cared about initially.
Yeah, became your own guinea pig, really, just like seeing what worked for you.
And then I met, synchronistically started meeting some mentors and teachers that took me from there. And then I worked with this one woman every single week. She would do sound healing and meditation sessions with me every single week for over 3 years. And she became a big influence and mentor to me. And she also introduced me to ayahuasca, and I started working with ayahuasca. That became like a really strong focus and motivator for me to stay sober and live as clean of a lifestyle as I could, because you would always want to do these clean diets of mental and physical preparation leading up to the ceremonies. And whatever I've done it like full in. So I just took that approach while I was trying to be full on athlete. That didn't work. Now I'm doing this work, healing work, consciousness work. Okay, full on, So that's the approach I took to that.
It's as if your spiritual physical awakening is it's the dieta to our culture and the life that you were living before that. That's kind of detoxing from unconsciousness, detoxing from.
Yeah, it was and I talk about polarity integration and this whole idea. Everyone always says, I wish I had some of the knowledge or the wisdom that I have now when 15, 20 years ago, right? So, but I just, after eating such a crappy diet my whole life and reading about nutrition, I just made a hard switch, and I just went like full on vegan, trying to eat raw. And I was just crapping my brains out all the time and just like feeling terrible.
And then, that didn't work. What can I go 100% in next?
Yeah. So then finding balance in my diet over like a course of like 10 years and feeling
Swing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah, then it came back to, well, because I felt like I had to call myself something. Okay, I got to fit into a camp. I either got to call myself, am I a vegan? Am I a vegetarian? Am I paleo? I tried them all, you know. And I was like, oh, wait, I just need to eat a balanced diet and eat as much organic food as possible. Okay.
Would you say that
And don't eat
your
sugar.
yeah,
Shit like
your expansion has been finding balance in all areas of your life? Because I hear a lot of like all in 100% black and white with the way that you like previously
yeah.
approach things. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Finding balance and then realizing that all of our journeys are about finding what's uniquely right for ourselves.
Mm.
We can take, it's kind of like this quote, Satyan loves this quote. So I got this poster of Bruce Lee behind me and it says, absorb what's useful, discards what's not, add what is uniquely your own.
Oof, that last part, very important.
And so I'm realizing, oh, that's, you know, I was always trying to like find some system I could follow to a T and like, right. So instead it's, oh, learn about that, absorb what's useful, discard what's not useful to you, and then add your own, what's uniquely your own.
Mm.
And so I feel like that's just such a fitting mantra for anything we can do. And I feel like, you know, I've been in a place now for the past 5-6 years where I really feel like I'm doing that. And I really feel like that sense of integration and health and wholeness and fulfillment and it's about balance. But then once we find balance, we realize that it's about, now when we have balance, well, what's the next higher goal?
Mm-hmm.
And that's thriving, that's vibrance.
Yeah, being able to equally manifest any polarity that pulls up, to just to not be stuck on one side or to be unconsciously drawn to.
Balance is a stepping stone on the way to our full expression, on the way to our full potential. You know, balance is the foundation. So we just need to create that foundation, and then when we live from there, we're free in our full expression and potential.
I love that. When I was curious about, as you began to get into, you know, jujitsu and reading all this stuff spiritually, I heard you when we first started talking, you talked a lot about men's work and things like that. During this time between, like, you know, high school and this growth period, what was your relationship with feminine energy? Did you have like women in your life? Did you have like female friends, lovers? What was that like for you growing up and going into adulthood?
Yeah, tumultuous.
Mm-hmm.
And when I said I made that hard switch, when I was 21, I was so sick of myself. And so I quit drinking or doing any kind of mind altering things.
Mm-hmm.
I quit eating meat. I quit eating sugar. I quit women. And I just trained and worked. And gosh, I wish I didn't do it like that. It was like prime years in my early 20s where I just was like, I need to just be a monk, but still be in life, you know? And so I went from 21 to 24, I went over 3 years without having sex or dating anyone.
You're just kind of studying in the dojo of yourself and
Fuck.
life.
Terrible. But I was also like confronting such intense insecurities in myself as well. I was like so insecure and felt so much guilt for just stupid stuff I had done in the past. So it was like a really intense cleansing period. And I did the woman who I mentioned, the meditation teacher that I met, she was a main feminine presence in my life, but it was purely a mentorship, like relationship, but it was amazing. I really loved and still love and deeply appreciate her. Um, and then I've always had a really good, close relationship with my mom. So that's always continued throughout my adult life. And we were actually in that period, she was going through some tough times. And so we were there for each other a lot in my early 20s. And in regards to like femininity, I think I was diving deeper into my feminine because I was in such a hyper masculine state. Like David Data describes it really well on a first stage, second stage, third stage experience, where he breaks it down, where he says like there's first stage, second stage, third stage masculinity, first stage, second stage, third stage femininity. And to put it as simply as possible, like first stage is like that sort of typical macho masculinity, like very stereotypical, societal masculinity. Sure. Second stage is when you start leaning more towards the feminine. You're trying to open up more. You're trying to go counterculture. Men are trying to be less counterculture. They're trying to be more in touch with their feelings, trying to open up spiritually, trying to be friends with women and not only see them as sexual objects. All these things, very valuable things, but we can inevitably get off balance because I'll say for myself, I started going too feminine, like too soft, too wishy-washy, too unsure of myself. Just trying to open my heart, but no spine, kind of denying my masculinity.
Taking away the fierceness.
Yeah. The fierceness, the decisiveness, the direction, the power that we all have inside of us as men. And then that third stage is coming to an integration of them both, of the feminine and the masculine within ourselves. For the feminine, first stage, second stage, third stage, it's like you have your stereotypical societal femininity, that what women feel like they're supposed to be. And then second stage, they start putting on a masculine shell. So we see that as maybe, well, I was disrespected as a woman trying to be feminine. Now I'm going to show these men that I can be a badass businesswoman in the world. I can do anything that men can do. I'm not going to be all sexy and sensual. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to be focused. I'm going to be strong. Right? Again, value in developing those strengths and that independence, but it's a denial and an internal looking down on femininity in order to prove themselves as strong and independent and like they're not going to get walked all over and that they can do whatever a man can do. And the third stage is the integration. And that's where the true power lies, is that integration of that feminine and masculine essence within us all, which we all run a different spectrum of. We're all on a different spectrum. Mm-hmm. But we all have those polarities within us, those energies within us of feminine and masculine. So what I love about what David Data shares is it's kind of a breakdown of how we all go through this journey in our own ways of integrating those energies within us to really be, again, in balance and then in our full expression and in our full authentic expression of who we are. So I feel like I had to kind of dip into more of that emotional feeling place, and then come back into an acceptance of my masculinity, my strength, of who I am, who I naturally am as a wild fucking man.
With all those
and
rituals.
I can be that man without being destructive. I can be that man while also knowing how to hold respect and empathy and intuitive interaction with others. And that whole time when I was kind of in denial of my masculinity and trying to be more spiritual and emotional and feeling and doing all my healing work, my body felt like shit. I felt weak in my body. I felt kind of fragile, felt kind of um so that's been the journey, and now I don't feel that way at all.
Yeah, so I heard that it kind of manifested in your body as you went through the healing journey, feeling the tenderness.
Yeah, it's very clear that my body has always been a very direct manifestation of my internal state.
So as you've been able to move forward and integrate polarities, well, actually, let's talk about accelerated evolution. Where did that begin in your life? And we're talking about all this polarities and things like that.
What's cool is when I reflect on that journey is like the way I met the woman named Amadeo, who was my original meditation and spiritual teacher and guide. I met her when I was like, must have been like 23, 22, 23. And I was driving shuttle vans just as a day job. I was driving shuttle vans for a car dealership, and I just gave her a ride home when she dropped her car off for service, and we struck up a conversation. And then I scheduled a session with her, and then I kept scheduling sessions with her for over 3 years, and all the immense impact that had on my life. Well, then the woman who is my fiance now, her and I moved to Hawaii back in 2015 or 16, 2016. And she had this dream of moving to Hawaii, and it was within the first year we started dating, and she realized, well, I feel like it's time for me to go, and you can come with me or not, but I'm going. And I was like, damn, that's hot that she just said that. It's like I felt she was in her power when she said that, and that was a turn on for me. And so I said, fuck it, I'll move with you, but I had a lot of hesitance. I had a lot of mixed feelings about it, but we moved there, and it was in moving there and living there that I ended up meeting Satyan through a mutual friend who had received mentorship from him. And the first time I got to know Satyan and Suzanne was hanging out on a we met for lunch, and then we went and hung out on this clothing optional beach on the Big Island. And we just started chatting. And then Satyan was really into jiu-jitsu, and he knew that I, taught jiu-jitsu, and we trained together some. And I had this big match coming up. I was going to be on this kind of bigger show called Submission Underground. And, sort of a biggest opportunity for me as a black belt to compete on a bigger show. And Satyan was like, well, I have these techniques that can help with your mental clarity and your sharpness. Would you be interested in doing a session with me? And my friend had really talked Satyan up. I didn't really know much about what he did, but I was like, heck yeah, man, that'd be amazing. Thank you. Let's do it. So we did a session. I won that match. And then Satyan and I just felt like we had this very natural connection and bond. So I started receiving some mentorship from him, and then going to AE 5-day trainings, which they were still in person prior to COVID. And we just had this great natural connection. And then I ended up choosing to do master coach, and it's just continued from there. And I felt that when I first got exposed to accelerated evolution, it's like I already had more than a decade of consciousness practices, spiritual practices. And I knew early on, when I first started working with Amadeo in my early 20s, I felt very instantly that this was like something I was meant to learn more about. This is something that I was meant to do with others. And it wasn't until I met Satyan and learned these methods that I was like, okay, this is it. This finally provides me the structure and the framework to do the work with people that I want to do in the most clear and profound way. Like I can actually now facilitate these deep spiritual, metaphysical, and psychological experiences that I've had finally there's tools and structured ways I can facilitate this for others in a really good way.
Yeah. So when you came into AE, it was really just like, oh my gosh, I can finally share my healing with others. Like you had
Yeah, I can finally facilitate for people in the way that I've been wanting to.
Yeah. So since then, I trust your evolution has been quite accelerated. Then here you are, you talked
Quite.
about doing yeah, you're a coach as well as you facilitate men's work as well. How is men's work shown up in your life? Is that something that you have come into on your own, really like wanting to share more of your journey, or like what avenue does that look like?
Well, first of all, I just really enjoy it. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
You know, when like a group of men, you know, a group of great guys come together with a common goal and they have great attitudes and sincere intentions, it's a really powerful, wonderful experience. So, and I think while like I said, like I do work with women, I have female clients that have been working with me for a while, and that's great. And I've also had female clients where it just like attraction comes into play, sexual polarity comes into play, me not understanding what it's fully like to be a woman comes into play. And sometimes it feel more complicated. And I started having all these amazing experiences working with men. And I was like, you know, I think it feels even more simple to work directly with men. I'm a man, you're a man, we get each other. It's really valuable because right now there's a lot of triggers in society around men. And rightly so. There's been a lot of men have done a lot of fucked up shit globally and personally in one-on-one dynamics with women, with children, with people. And it's important for sincere-hearted men to be able to be in a space with other sincere-hearted men where they don't have to hold back what they say. Because the truth is, we can't say whatever we want around women. I mean, we can, just might not go very well. So I realized that it's important for us, just like women have women's only circles, and that's very important for them to do. Men, it's important to have men only spaces so that we don't have to hold back who we are, and we can say shit and another man is just going to be like, yeah, for real, man, instead of receive judgment like, why would you think that? I can't believe you would think that. That's fucked up. You would think that. How could you say that? There's probably, we all have that shit within us, and it's important for us to express that and know it's okay. And then, you know, like, I got you, brother. You wanted to just tell her she was a bitch and walk away. You wanted to say fuck her and walk away. You wanted to say all these things. I get it. I've felt that way before too. I'm glad that we're here in this space sharing it so that you don't have to say that to her. So you can fully feel that emotion, express it, and then you can go back to her with an articulation that will actually be effective and not as hurtful.
Yeah, really helping everyone release charge and come to this, like you talked about, manifesting that wild man in a non-destructive way.
Yeah. And I think it's been experiences with ayahuasca and with psilocybin that have helped me recognize the importance of, and not saying that everyone should do this because nothing is for everyone, especially psychedelics are not for everyone. But for people that do gravitate towards that, I think that psilocybin and ayahuasca are very important tools and very important things for men to have good relationship with and to experience, and for us to, the power of men sitting with psilocybin and ayahuasca together is on so many levels, provides so many benefits to us personally and societally. And through my own recent experiences, it's those two medicines and those two presences of psilocybin and ayahuasca that have encouraged me more than anything else to do more men's work.
Well, as our time draws close, I would ask, what's the next highest goal? What's in your future?
The next highest goal, I want to continue. I want to continue to grow what I'm doing. I want to continue to grow my work with men. I want to continue to grow my coaching work. I want to continue to facilitate more and more retreats. So I guess the next goal would be to have even more retreats filled and on the schedule in the Northwest and in Hawaii. Because right now I just have 2 each year. I'd like that to be more. And then the bigger, higher goal is to have a organic farm and retreat center on acreage on the Big Island and in either Washington or Oregon. Mm-hmm. So 2 organic farms and retreat centers is the bigger vision, where not only we grow healthy food for ourselves and we're in touch with that relationship, but also other people get to come and get in touch with that relationship, and they get to come and get away from the daily life and have some introspection, have some time in nature, experience some peace, deep practices, have retreats. So that's a bigger vision that I'm focused on.
Awesome.
That's feeling some movement as well.
Yeah, so, inching towards that, manifesting it right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for giving me a slice of the life story. I deeply appreciate you taking this time to share with me. And by doing your work, you're helping me do my work, and I'm helping other men and other humans do their work. So
that's what it's all about.
We're doing
That's
it.
Exactly what it's all about. We're all doing this together, right? And we've all heard that phrase, "We are stronger together," but it may be cliche, but I use it a lot because it's just the truth. And that's especially what men need to remember, because men have a tendency to feel like we need to do things on our own with our own willpower. That's not the case. We are stronger together, and the more men come together to collaborate and support one another in the full spectrum of life, the stronger we're all going to be. And so I really appreciate you inviting me to do this podcast and have this conversation. And it's really fun for me, and it's a joy for me to get to share.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thanks, Tyler.
Andrew Marshall, embodying the practice, changing lives. You can find more about Andrew at marshall-coaching.com. And as always, any questions or comments about me in this podcast can be sent to lumbertronic@gmail.com. Until next time, keep sharing your stories.